The road into town is a ribbon of beige and oat, running between fields already resting from summer. Maples lean across the lane, practicing the art of letting go. Every breeze loosens a few more leaves. They turn in the air without hurrying, gold and copper and a careful orange, then choose a quiet landing along the edges of the world. Your bag is not heavy anymore. It doesn't change size, but the village shares the weight of things. The first houses wear shawls of ivy. A bakery leaves its window open enough for cinnamon to find you without effort. A dog with toast-colored ears chooses a patch of weak sun and makes the most of it. The creek that runs under the small bridge has nothing urgent to report. It speaks in round syllables, like someone telling an easy story by the stove. The inn sits at the bend where cobbles become kindness. Its sign reads the Equinox house in paint that has survived several winters and learned to be patient. Inside the door, the air is apple sweet and linen clean. A kettle works at a friendly hum. On the desk waits a tray with 3 brass keys and a hand-lettered note. Choose the one that sounds like sleep. You lift the first, a small chime, bright as glass. The second, a hollow wooden knock, like a shelf confirming it can hold one more book. The third makes almost no sound at all, only the sense of a hand finding yours in the dark. You keep that one. Your room faces a stand of birch. Their white trunks wear small silver seams of early chill. Their leaves use the window's breath as practice for leaving. A quilt lies ready, pieced from scraps of quiet, river blue squares, oat-colored strips, a faded gingham from someone's kitchen. On the small table, a clay cup, a glass of water with one thin slice of pear, and a tin labeled leaf balm with pencil words beneath. Warm between palms. You will smell October. The window is open the way a kind conversation is open, enough to let the air say what it needs to say, not so much that you lose your place. The curtain moves as a teacher might when reminding breath how to lengthen. You set your bag down. The floor replies in a low polite tone. You sit. Your shoulders come down a flight of stairs you didn't know you were carrying. You explore because the kettle's sound is a door by itself. The common room keeps blankets folded like well-behaved waves. A shelf of paperbacks leans into a corner that understands tired hands. The mantel clock inhibits the urge to hurry by moving its hands the way leaves fall, gradually, on purpose. The innkeeper pours hot water over slices of apple and a ribbon of lemon peel. The cup warms your fingers first, then the wrists, then everything that follows the wrists. You arrived at exactly the right time, the innkeeper says, which in this place is always true. Outside, the street fits your steps. A grocery sets a crate of windfall apples on the stoop with a note. Take what you will use today. A tailor props his door with a smooth stone and reads a letter slowly, as if letters need rest too. A child drags a twig through a puddle and is surprised by how the sky breaks and mends. Over the bridge, geese draw a sentence across the dusk and erase it with themselves. You circle back at the hour when windows begin to glow as if they had been taught the word welcome. Your room has kept your shape in the quilt long enough to improve it. You turn the tin of leaf balm in your hands until it feels like a small secret, then warm it and breathe. October arrives. Cut wood, apple skin, wool left to dry near a stove, a memory of walking home in a good coat. The scent doesn't argue, it suggests. You lie down. The pillow is a coastline you've known since childhood. The window's breath steadies. A moth visits the glass and decides on darkness instead. Somewhere, someone turns the page of a cookbook and thinks of soup in a way that will make the soup better when they finally make it. The inn's stair learns to stop creaking on the second step. The world takes fewer words to say the same thing. You let the room repeat its soft grammar. In, out, in, out. You feel the quilt lift where your breath lifts, and settle where it settles. You doze as leaves do, still attached, already resting. When you wake, you are still not far from sleep. And that is allowed. Good night, murmurs the clock without moving its mouth. And the birches nod. A bell, single and small, finds your door and stops there. The hallway smells like bread that has made peace with butter. A tray sits where footsteps do not echo. Warm water, a biscuit with honey, a card in tidy print. The pressed leaf room is open. Bring your quiet. The card feels like a suggestion, not an appointment. You slip on the sweater that behaves like a kindly sentence and go. The bookshop at the corner holds its door with a pumpkin. A sign written in chalk that looks like fog says back room. Leaves and listening. The back room is bigger than it looks. Tables of pine, shelves like thoughtful fences, and along one wall the long flat drawers pressed leaf people use. Each drawer wears a simple label: maple, late, oak, steady, birch, early and often. The librarian is cardigan first, person a close second. They nod you into belonging without asking for your name. Everything here is patient, they say, sliding a drawer open the way a day slides open after good sleep. Each sheet of clean paper holds one leaf, resting, not trapped. Corners carry pencil notes. Carried home in a mitten on the day the first scarf was right. Found at the bakery door, fluttered like a yes. Stayed green longer than anyone expected, a talented reluctant. You sit at a table and the chair finds your back with an accuracy that suggests a long, quiet study of backs. Light comes from the left so you don't shadow your page, the sort of consideration you can feel but hardly see. A glass candle blurs its own edges to release softer light. The librarian brings a small stone weight for your paper and sets it down as if it were a sleeping creature. A corner of the room is reserved for weather notes. Not forecasts, memories. Cards tied with cord red. Fog that approved of everything. Rain shaped like beads against the window. Wind that learned to use its indoor voice. You look at cards and feel seen by them. They agree to remember you if you forget yourself later. Beside the drawers sits a simple press made of wooden frames and wing nuts polished by old fingers. A sign invites. Add one. Label with a sentence that doesn't need a reply. You slide a birch leaf from your scarf. The shape of a small ear, the color of tea. On the corner of the paper you write. Held the light like a promise said quietly. The press closes the way a door closes when everyone is already inside. At another table a child traces leaves on thin paper. Veins a little too long, stems more certain than life. The drawing is correct in its affection. An older woman sleeps gently where she meant to read. Her hand still rests on a page with a painting of a pottery bowl, and the bowl in the painting looks pleased she chose it to sleep with. Along the far wall, listening boxes. Small wooden cubes with round holes like old music players, each keeps a sound. You lift one labeled rake over gravel and hear a gentle rasp that thinks highly of fresh air and sweaters. Another. Window latch, polite, a click that doesn't mind being small. You listen to soup stirred in a high pot and feel your shoulders change their mind about something they didn't need to hold. The librarian returns with tea brewed from roasted barley and apple peel. It tastes like a walk taken 30 minutes too long and forgiven by the weather. Leaves, the cardigan says, teach us to let go slowly and look good doing it. They pour their own cup and look at the ceiling the way people do when they remember the color of a day from last year. You read a drawer labeled uncertain leaves. These are the ones that split themselves between staying and going. Their notes say only, "It's okay." You look at them until something at the edge of your chest finds the same words, and you nod back. On a small shelf near the door lie blank folded papers, perfectly white. "For pressing the scent of today," reads a penciled sign. You take one. The paper holds more weight than its size, and less than your pocket, which accepts it without complaint. When you leave, the shop bell remembers how to be a sound that doesn't steal attention. Outside, the afternoon has rearranged itself to emphasize quiet. Bags of walnuts at the grocer, a bench warming itself in the low sun, a bicycle leaning as if it had thoughts. You return to the inn by a different route so your feet can be surprised by the same street. At the door, the innkeeper has placed a plate of oat squares with a card that says, "Take one, or think about taking one and feel just as nourished." You do both. Back upstairs, the room holds the temperature of a good word said softly. You press your palm to the folded paper from the shop. One slow second, and lift it away as if the moment could be pressed too. The quilt receives you again as if improvising your shape from muscle memory. Outside, leaves brush the window like someone looking for the right page. Inside, the glass of water waits without agenda, the pear slice making a thin crescent. The pillow has learned your name and the correct way to speak it. Sleep comes nearer with the posture of a cat who knows you will be here when it arrives. You close your eyes and do not shut out the world, you dim it. The door between day and night stays ajar. You hear shoes creak downstairs and then apologize. You hear the kettle fail to whistle on purpose. The clock takes a breath and delays its tick. Your own breath proposes a slower rule, and everything agrees. If you drift, you drift. If not, you rest. The room insists this is equal. Night folds a corner of itself under your cheek. Evening decides to wear its best jacket and steps outside with you. The village has a habit of lanterns, jars with wire handles, tin punctured with little moons, glass that knows how to hold flame without scolding it. Tonight, the creek path hosts the lantern loop, a quiet walk along water and orchard and back again. No speeches, no parade, just a moving hush that glows. A bell offers its single note, neither command nor request, more a shared nod. Porches answer by lighting their small stars. A girl with a paper bag punched full of holes carries a battery candle and believes in it so much that the candle believes back. You lift a jar lantern from the ingate. Its glass is warm with the memory of other nights. The flame steadies as if it recognizes your hands. Feet learn the path's pace, 3 human steps to every creek syllable. The bridge is a gentle instrument. Boards hum. Rails remember. Ropes yawn without complaint. Lanterns nod to one another and to the water. A wind comes, asking everyone how they are, and leaves before answers are required. Neighbors fall in beside you for a while, names unneeded. One mentions soup that began with onions and ended with a different story. Another mentions a sweater that finally decided to fit. You reply with the universal autumn sentence, "I love this part," and they know which part you mean. The part where people gather without performing, the part where light is carried rather than thrown. The orchard opens like a slow book. Apples hang like low moons. Sometimes a lantern lifts to let a fruit feel seen. Sometimes a fruit seems to glow from the inside and asks for nothing more. At the long table near the far fence stand jars of cinnamon sticks, bowls of walnuts, and a crock labeled lost buttons. The note says, "Take one if your coat is missing a friend. Leave one if your coat can spare it." You roll a small brown button in your palm and decide it will belong to a stranger with a coat you will not see. This warms you as much as the lantern. A pot of mulled cider steams. The person tending it hums a tune with no words, which is the best kind of evening hymn. They pass you a cup with two hands so you will take it with both of yours. Heat goes into your fingers and travels the familiar roads of your wrists to your shoulders, which finally put down what they were not meant to carry. The second sip tastes like something that already worked out. The path bends to the mill pond. Geese rest like commas in a long sentence. The water edits moonlight very gently. Along the bank, someone has placed tea lights in jars. When the breeze checks on them, the jars answer with a tiny chorus. A child ties his lantern to a low branch, so the tree won't be lonely, and the tree likes the idea enough to act as if it needed it. A chalkboard leans on a crate nearby, with stubby pieces of chalk that break in friendly ways. People write wishes for the season. A leaf piled taller than me, a chair that fits everyone, no loud things in the morning, sleep that shows up without arguing. You add a small lantern drawing next to your wish, then rub it once with your thumb to soften the lines. It becomes kinder. The walk thins as folks step off toward their porches, their alleys, their rooms. The creek takes a breath it has been saving since August. Your feet learn a quieter step and find their way back to the inn by scent and sound more than geometry. Wood smoke against sweater. Wind in dry grass. Bread cooling in a room you will not see. At the gate, you hang your lantern where it was. It keeps its ember a moment longer out of politeness, then closes its eye. The innkeeper has left a plate on the stoop with 3 slices of spiced loaf and a card that says, "The last is for tomorrow, you or someone else, choose kindly." You eat 1 slice and imagine the other 2 correct futures for themselves. This nourishes more than eating would have. Your room is what rooms want to be when they grow up. Tidy without asking you to be tidy, warm without making a point of it. You lay the folded paper from the leaf room on the table, place your hand on it again for 1 heartbeat and leave it. The window lets in a sober kind of air. The quilt learns your knees. The pillow reads your forehead and approves of it. You smell cider and smoke on your sleeve. Such evidence is useful when the mind thinks it must do more to deserve rest. You show the mind the sleeve. The mind settles. Eyes close like curtains on a window still cracked for good air. Footsteps below choose their careful notes. The clock upstairs delays itself again. Sleep untucks its paws and climbs into the lap of the room. You do not chase it. You let it find you. Morning rehearses before performing. It tries a thin lace on the grass at the hill's foot. The frost is not a rule. It is a reminder that brightness can be quiet. You wake while the window is still pewter. Your breath makes a small cloud that disappears in the moment you smile at it. Down the hall, breakfast speaks the language of forgiving everything. Toast at the correct shade, butter that has learned to spread, jam labeled August saved. Steam lifts from bowls of porridge that hold a round pond of cream. The innkeeper, sleeves rolled to the part of the forearm that knows work, says, "The meadow thistles wore crowns this morning." You picture it and feel crowned yourself without needing to own anything. Boots remember how to be boots. Your shawl locates your shoulders. The air outside is honest and kind in the same breath. Leaves left over from the lantern walk shine as if the frost wanted to write thank you notes. The creek's stones wear bright edges. The water uses its slow voice. A heron stands where it always stands when it wants to look as if it has always stood there. On a fence post rests a feather standing upright, held by a sugar of ice. You decide the small flag's nation is called enough. You apply for citizenship with a long inhale and receive a passport on the exhale. The bookshop door is still, but a square of paper waits inside the window. Your leaf is pressed. It said thank you. The pressed leaf room remembers even when closed. On the chalkboard by the orchard the wishes glow faintly where dew softened them. Your lantern drawing smudged into a brighter truth than your hand made yesterday. You like the smudge better. Market baskets arrive on the green. Squash sit together according to personality. One is a sleepy moon, one a bell, one a long story that went wide before it went long. A vendor wraps a small squash in brown paper that once was a map and says, keeps the heat better, meaning the squash now and your day later. You buy pears because the pears apply for adoption and you are a fair judge of character. Before departure, you walk the slope behind the inn. The frost has loved every step. At the top, roofs breathe out small threads of smoke. The creek chooses its corners carefully. Geese test a new line across the sky and like it. You sit on a rock that has saved your shape for a long time without making a fuss about it. The sun tries an edge of the orchard first, then a porch railing, then your hands. You unfold yesterday's blank paper and it carries a faint scent now. Pressing works on more than leaves. You write a sentence on the margin. I slept. You fold the paper again, smaller, because smallness suits the truth. Packing is a courtesy, not a race. The room doesn't mind the tidy noise of zippers and folded shirts. It's pleased you are leaving rested enough to do anything gently. The silent key returns to the tray with its family. The other keys make a welcoming sound for it. The innkeeper has 2 envelopes. One with a recipe for the spiced loaf, written as if each step were a small good day. One with a dot of leaf balm wrapped in muslin, to remind your hands what October knows. No debts, the innkeeper says. Only returns, whenever, which is the village way of saying goodbye without closing any doors. The dog with toast-colored ears approves this policy from the rug near the stove. The lane remembers you, which is to say it does not make a big deal. Your boots speak softly to the path. The birches give you half a minute of applause, then change their minds and give you a bow instead. The creek continues its round talk. The bell offers its one note for the morning, and geese decide to agree with it. You walk out carrying the village in at least 3 pockets. The pressed scent, the recipe, the dot of balm. Also less visible things. Your slower steps, the way your shoulders decided not to hold what they didn't need, the lantern's lesson that light is a thing we carry together. Wherever the next room is, you will open a window the correct amount. You will choose a cup that warms your fingers. You will let sleep come the way geese arrive, by choosing the best line of sky available and letting it be enough. If, tonight, sleep shows up quickly, thank the birches. If it lingers before arriving, thank the frost for teaching patience. If it doesn't arrive, rest anyway. The room you learned here can be unfolded anywhere. Morning, pleased with itself for being gentle, dips a spoon into the day and tastes approval. The day nods. You smile at nobody in particular, the perfect number of people, and go. The quiet keeps your seat until you're back. Good night, again, whenever you need it.